if this is his last time sitting next to Trump, maybe Trump will get nostalgic. I mean, who knows? Trump can be charming, and so I think overall, I don't think there will be a beat up on Keir Starmer. I think he'll sail through okay.
And Jim Townsend joins me now. Good morning.
Well, good morning.
What do you think the message from President Trump will be at this NATO summit in Ankara?
Well, I'm afraid it'll be a continuing resume of his grievances and things that he's unhappy with that go back many years. He'll ask for loyalty. He'll say, "What do we get out of NATO? I've been disappointed." Those nations that are laggard and are not meeting their 5% pledge, he's going to threaten and this type of thing. I'm hoping actually that he'll dampen down some of his rhetoric because Mark Rutte, the Secretary General of NATO, was just there last week and laid out a pretty good news story about what allies are doing in terms of spending money, what are they spending it on. And so I'm hoping we're not going to get his list of grievances, but I think he gets stuck on those talking points, and I'm afraid that will be our fate.
Does he have something that he's going in hoping to achieve? I mean, maybe the question is the American side more broadly. I mean, is there an ambition here? There's obviously the funding demand, but there are many more things that NATO has to consider. I mean, Ukraine, Russia is a big one of them. Is there a particular ambition the American side has for this summit?
Well, I think there is. Whether Trump is going to NATO with these kinds of substantive talking points in mind, I don't know. But I think certainly his team and our ambassador there at NATO, their goals are going to be seeing what nations are going to do in terms of how they spend their money.
Mm.
I think the Secretary General's focus is on defense industrial cooperation, and that nations are going to be buying the kit that is needed to particularly take the place of American forces as they begin to draw down somewhat. I think the president may talk about that, which is the 6-month review that was announced just a few weeks ago. And as in fact, as we do, have the review, and there's some of the U.S. forces are drawn down. Allies are going to have to fill the gap, and so I think for the U.S., they're going to want to see that, in fact, procurement is being done. There's defense industrial cooperation. That there will be a shift of burden from the United States to the European nations in terms of conventional deterrence. So,
Mm.
broadly for the United States, that's kind of what they're hoping to do.
Yeah, and presumably some of that money is spent in America. I mentioned Ukraine there. Ukraine is under constant attack, obviously, but over the last couple of days, there have been significant attacks in Kyiv targeting residential buildings. And President Zelensky has come out overnight and said he does not have the interception required to stop these missiles at this point. He's calling for air defense systems. Do you think that's something the Americans could get behind?
Well, that's been a problem for Ukraine from the beginning is air defense and air defense missiles. It's mainly the Patriot missile, which he is talking about, although there's some European systems too that have been effective. But you're absolutely right. He is running out of missiles, and I think for the United States, we're beginning to prioritize our own arsenals now. It's the story of America first. Look, we're going to take care of our shortfalls, Ukraine, before we can take care of yours. And so I think the U.S. Is not ready to get behind him in that way, the way we were in the past. Now suddenly, with Trump, he's saying no, our priorities are first, and we have used a lot of our interceptors dealing with the battles with Iran. And defending Israel last year, and there's been quite a drawdown. Houthis, there's been a lot of usage, and so our stocks are low. And so I think the question becomes: will the U.S. be willing to work together with Ukraine to allow Ukraine to manufacture these Patriot missiles themselves? And I think we've got some agreements like that with Germany, maybe some others, in terms of manufacturing themselves Patriot missiles. But there's other problems that come with that from subcontractors who can't provide enough of the material for these missiles to be made. I mean, there's these issues. So for Ukraine and for Zelensky, he's going to have a chronic problem with air defense. But guess what? So do the Russians, and that's the other side of the coin here is that Putin is his air defense systems are not proving very effective. There's not enough of them for himself to protect against mid-range and long-range
Mm.
cruise missiles and drones that Ukraine is throwing against him, and they're also destroying a lot of the missile defense
Yeah.
systems that the Russians have. So it's an interesting back and forth between those two countries. But I would say, it's going to be tough for the U.S. to get in line and help the Ukraine in this case.
And is that the right call in your view?
No, it's not. And I'm hoping that Europe will be able to help too. Europe, a number of European allies, particularly Germany, they have Patriot missiles too. The problem is that these allies in Europe are saying, well, we need them as well in case the Russians try something, particularly ramping up the gray zoned attacks that they have
Yeah.
had in the past. But to your question, no, I think while I understand that our arsenal is low, it is Ukraine that's fighting our fight against Russia right now, and they've got, as you point out, these apartment blocks are being targeted, and Ukrainians are killed every night. So if it were me in the White House, I would step up deliveries as fast
Mm.
as I could of Patriot missiles.
People often watch NATO summits for the personalities, the interactions between the leaders. And obviously, at this summit in Ankara, it will be our Prime Minister Keir Starmer's final international summit, probably. He's about to step down as Prime Minister. He's also seated, we understand, next to President Trump. Do you think the President will be very critical of the Prime Minister? Do you think he will hold back that criticism given he knows that Keir Starmer's leaving? Or do you think that he will want to talk about the fact that the UK has not reached 3%?
Well, that's an interesting question. So yes, the UK sits next to the US because you're seated alphabetically around the table. So we're always sitting next to the Brits. I used to do that as well, and I always enjoyed the camaraderie with my UK comrade to my right. I think Trump, when he speaks at the plenary meetings behind closed doors, he seems to just get stuck on these talking points. And I have not really heard that the UK has been a feature in these talking points. So once he flips his switch and he just starts going off around the table, I don't think he is going to attack UK or Starmer. I think Keir Starmer is going to talk about the dip, and he's going to talk about extra money coming in. I mean, he's got a story to tell as well that will sound pretty good to Trump. And so my guess is you won't see him being humiliated in front of his colleagues at NATO. He might even say something kindly because they do sit next to each other, and maybe and they've had in the past a bit of a good relationship there. And if this is his last time sitting next to Trump, maybe Trump will get nostalgic. I mean, who knows? Trump can be charming, and so I think overall, I don't think there will be a beat up on Keir Starmer. I think he'll sail through okay.
Just finally, while we have you here, the other controversy is obviously the president getting involved in the football. And he's admitted overnight that he did make a call and seek to reverse the decision on a red card, despite not knowing what a red card is. There have been claims, and a lot of the newspapers here in this country, for example, talk about corruption and an inappropriate intervention from the president. Do you think he was right to get involved?
No, I really don't. And I am not a football or a soccer expert, I have to say, although I've enjoyed the World Cup. I just think you know we got to keep politics out of sport as much as we can. As much as we can, we got to keep it out. And for the U.S. head of state to jump into this thing and make these calls, it just is embarrassing. It's really embarrassing. At the end of the day, I watched the match, and we lost to Belgium. Just desserts, I guess. But I think that was an absolute wrong call. It's in keeping with his personality. But I think he's really embarrassed us by doing that. And I'm so sorry that happened.
Jim, thank you very much. Great to have you.
Well, it's great to see you.